Welcome to Ariel's Light. So for the next few months, we are going to be covering a program that I have done in many places, but not all together. And it's actually a book that I'm working on, and I thought it'd be great to just be able to bring it all in one place and really allow people to really dive deep. And so with that, I thought we would talk tonight about the format of the program, and then we'll dive into some of the keys that we're going to be discussing. And then also we're just going to have a really short little heart meditation here as we're getting started, and just sort of open the floor for questions. So I've had some people message me and say, I've been to your other workshops before, I've done rhythm work. Should I be here? So we're going to answer all of those questions. And if you've got other questions, we're going to answer them as well. So let's first start by just getting centered here for just a moment. Often in Ariel's Light, well, actually, usually in Ariel's Light, we start or we end with a meditation. And we won't be doing that many meditations over the next few months, but I will be giving you a meditation focus. And today, sort of before we start that, I want you to really focus on what you're hoping to get from being here. And, thinking about the pain points that you might have going on in your life, things that you're really hoping to get to the bottom of. So I want you to just take a moment and close your eyes and put your hand over your heart and just think for a second about what it is that you're hoping to get from being here, and learn about yourself, learn about your family, learn about your path, all of those things. So let's just take a few seconds to just do that. Okay. I'm hoping that you will take what you sort of thought your intention was and put it down in your notebook or the workbook that you have either printed out or downloaded. The reason being, like when we start a program, like I am a hugely guilty of shiny object syndrome, of being somebody who's like, "Ooh, that looks great. I need that." And then about a third of the way in, I'm like, "Why did I start that again?" So I want you to think about why you think you're here. And that is part of what your homework is, as we're working through this first section, is to really sort of think about why you're here. And if you have started programs in the past and that you've not been able to complete them, sort of think about what that is all about, maybe. And don't judge it, just journal about it a little bit and see sort of where you end up with that. So there should be space in your workbook for you to journal about some things. The workbook is intended to go for the entire month, so please don't jump ahead and get the other stuff done. We will work on those pieces as we go. And the beautiful thing about this program, the reason why I wanted to do all of these pieces together, is because whatever your Q&A is this week will determine some of the pieces that I pull in next week. So if there are some things that are coming up over and over again that I'm hearing from y'all that you really want reflection on, well, I will make sure that they are in the next class, because I really want you to, as you're sort of showing up and asking questions, I really want you to be able to walk away with what it is that you need, so that you can really work on having this peaceful foundation. Because it is incredibly important to me, and I'm very, very dedicated to the success of the people that work with our content, because I know what it's like. I know what it's like to, sort of be in a spot where you feel like you're spinning your wheels and you're treading water, and you really want to sort it out, and you want to be the best mother that you can be. and you're struggling. And so I completely understand that. And I really am very dedicated to sort of helping you on that path. So I will show up for you. You show up for me. So you bring the questions and I am happy to sort of help you work through them. And then it will make the content that much more enriching. I will say that the Q&A portion will not be recorded. I don't record Q&As, just like I don't record our office hours over at Waldorf Essentials, because I want it to feel like a safe space. It doesn't feel safe if you know it's going to be on the internet and be listened to by a bunch of other people. So if you are here live, then you get to be part of the live Q&A. And if you are not here live, well, you're just going to have to wait until the next week and see what came up from the Q&A that then I decided to include in the program. So again, like, your participation is super helpful when it comes to sort of being in the space. There is no question that is too dumb. There is no question that's too silly, no challenge that is too big. So if you've got questions, you've got challenges, this is the place to ask them. And you know, you have my full attention when we are doing that. So again, when it comes to your workbook, I just wanted to make sure that you get an opportunity to download it, at least, even if you don't have a printer. I know a lot of people don't have a printer. So even if you don't have a printer, just download it and grab yourself a notebook and just do the exercises that are in the workbook in a notebook. You don't have to have you don't have to have it printed out. So I'm just leaving you with that piece, and also a reminder not to move ahead. Don't move ahead to the next call when we're just doing this one. So just focus. And again, ask questions. So let's see, I've got my little list here. The format is going to be 2 calls a month. So normally Ariel's Light is just 1 call a month. But I really felt like having too much time in between these topics is like we fall off. So we're doing 2 calls a month, and that should help you stay on task. There is homework with each one. It's not a crazy amount of homework. It's really a lot of sort of inner space for you as a mother. Like, how are things going? How are you feeling about things? Can dads participate? Absolutely. We may have a couple of calls where Eric is in here with me. He and I do a lot of marriage and family coaching together. So there's opportunities for sure for you to be bringing this to dad, and you should be bringing this to dad. You should be having these conversations together and really being on the same page. Also, if you are a single parent, I absolutely understand that space as well. I was a single parent for some time, so I understand what it's like to be a single mom. I was a single mom with 3 kids that were all under 10, and it is hard. It's hard. I was homeschooling them and running a business at the time. So I completely understand all of those spaces. So again, there's no question that is like outside of the realm of what we can work on here. So I completely understand that, and just sort of know that every call is for your support. Again, I talked about the workbook, we talked about the Q&A. Okay, so the course is kind of going to be broken down into 3 segments. So we've got this rhythm segment that will be the next call. We'll talk a little bit about it today. That will be the next call. We will dive deeply into that. And if you've done rhythm work with me, you're probably rolling your eyes thinking, oh, I have to do this again. Like, yes, you do. So hopefully it's just a checkup for you. But if you've done it before and you felt like an utter failure, or like you needed a little kick in the bum or some check-in, this is a perfect opportunity for that. It's a perfect opportunity. We're at the beginning of the year. It's an opportunity for you to look at sort of how things have been going and how you want to make changes. And again, remember, the rhythm isn't so much about a schedule. It is about how you want your home to feel. So if you focus on how you want your home to feel, it will be a lot easier for you to sort of execute the things that we're going to talk about in the next call. So again, the first section will be about rhythm. Then we have a big chunk of the calls that will be about relationships. So with those, we're going to be talking about your relationship with yourself, your relationship with your family, temperaments, human needs, all of those things will be there. And yes, a lot of content that we've talked about before, but what's so beautiful about having this live Q&A piece is I always get questions that I wouldn't have thought of. And so I will be able to bring it into the next call. And then we are also going to do the last chunk on inner work. And when we do that, we will dive into trauma. We will dive into both physical trauma, spiritual trauma, all of the places where we feel like we end up getting disconnected from our higher self, from God, from like figuring out those pieces. And so we'll be diving deeper into that than we have in past work that I've done for the public. I've done a lot of work with people one-on-one when it comes to that spiritual space. And I'm going to be bringing a lot of that here. So again, the best thing for you to do is to come and ask questions, because when you ask questions, it absolutely affects how the entire group then gets to learn. So, excuse me. Again, each class sort of builds on the last one. Let's see here. This is absolutely a free course. If you want the replays for this, you can join our Candle membership. It's $5 a month, and you get access to actually all of the Ariel's Light replays, all of these replays. And it goes where Ariel's Light's a nonprofit. We're a nonprofit parent ministry. So it goes to support this work and allows us to continue to do it. So we also take donations. If that's ever something that you feel like you want to do, we do have families that donate that feel like that we have helped them in many ways. And so they're generous enough to do that. And that's always appreciated. The donations often will go to our scholarship fund, for Seasons of Seven, or for Waldorf Essentials. So that's how your donations get used within our program. So I guess I would say, I did want to say here really quick too, the easiest way to grab me in between calls, if you have a question, is to grab me on Instagram. So if you can catch me over on the Waldorf Essentials Instagram, and I can actually put that really quick in the chat so that you can easily get me. If you've got any questions, you are always welcome to ask them there. If you get stuck, that is the easiest place to get me. Often you'll get myself, or my assistant Jen is in there as well, but she always tells me like, hey, there's somebody that needs your help, so hop over there. So if I miss it, she'll grab it. And I think that's the housekeeping pieces. And if you have questions, please put them in the chat. And again, we can tackle some of those Q&A pieces at the end. So let's back up to the heart-centered question that I asked you. And that was sort of like, why are you here? So I want you to really sort of think about that as you're walking through. And as I'm going through the next portion here, I want you to really take to heart why you feel like you need to be here. And you may get done today and you might be like, I don't need this. Totally understand. Not everybody needs this. You may be doing like a spanking job at everything. Your parenting might be doing great. Your partnership might be great. You might be feeling wonderful, and you don't need to be here. And I absolutely respect that. I absolutely respect that. But if you're somebody who is struggling in any way, shape, or form when it comes to rhythm, when it comes to your daily tasks, when it comes to homeschooling, or even if you're not homeschooling, I have a lot of work with a lot of families that aren't homeschooling, like those daily things that keep you up and keep you going every day. If you are at all struggling with those pieces, this is the place to be. If you're struggling with relationships, understanding each other, understanding yourself, this is the place to be. So we will be sort of diving into all of those things. And also, I've had a lot of families reach out to me in the last 4 years, specifically before then, but definitely the last 4 years, where they feel like they've lost their spiritual home and they don't know where to go. And they are struggling with those pieces. And so this is a great place to be if that's your challenge as well, because we will be talking about some of those pieces as we get towards the end of the program in the like late April, May, and early June portions. So that should hopefully help you with your why are you here question. So the next thing I'm going to do is talk about these 6 keys of sort of having this healthy home life. And you may have heard me talk about some of these before. If you've followed me for 5 minutes, you may have heard me talk about all of these things before, but I'm going to go a little bit more in depth as we're sort of laying out the structure and the foundation for the course. So the first key that I find to be incredibly important as a parent, trying to do anything with children is knowing what systems you have in place. So that's all the things that are tied to rhythm. So systems in place would be like, what does sleep look like? What does eating look like? Are you front loading? And if you don't know what front loading is you have a museum trip tomorrow morning at 8:30. What are you doing right now to get ready for that? That's front loading. Have you packed your snacks? Do you know where everybody's shoes are? Do you have clean clothes? Like that's front loading. Or like one of my favorites is like your husband is taking the kids out for 3 hours. Did you help him front load? Does he have snacks with him? Does he know where he's going? Surely he's not taking them to the crazy children's museum and they're going to come back all crazy and then you have to deal with it. So front loading is the space of truly taking the time to think ahead about how people are going to act. You know your children better than anybody. You know, if you go to this one place over here, you'll pay for it for a week. And you know, if you feed this food over here, you're gonna have a sick child. Like, so you know those things. And so front loading is a huge piece when it comes to our parenting and to our rhythm. Other things when it comes to what you've got in place systems wise is just the bare bones of the rhythm itself. And that's not just your family rhythm. It's not just what days you go to karate and what days you go grocery shopping. It's also your personal rhythm. It is what time you're getting up, what you're doing when you do get up. Do you have alone time? Do you carve out that alone time? Do you demand that alone time? Do you work with your partner about making sure that they also have alone time so that you guys aren't raving lunatics and that you can greet your children like they are the sweetest blessings from God, like they are? So those are things that we'll be talking about more in depth next week. And again, if you followed me for 5 minutes, you know those are things I talk about all the time. And if there are things that you're struggling with, I want you to bring me the questions because I really want to help you dial into this. Does not mean just because people call me the queen of rhythm doesn't mean I never have rhythm challenges. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I sit down and I'm like, oh, okay, where did it go wrong? And I back it up. Oh, that's where it is. And sometimes I can't figure out where it went wrong. So I do just what I ask y'all to do. I grab an actual rhythm chart and I keep track of my rhythm for a few days just so I can see, okay, where have I gotten off? Oh, I see. I altered this one thing in the morning and it's messed the whole thing up. So we'll be talking more in depth about that in the next call. But if you don't have like solid systems in place, and that solid system is that also that like reflection space. So you can have a beautiful rhythm on paper or a beautiful menu, but if you're not executing those things and really also reflecting on them regularly, then there's probably some issues with your systems. So again, the first key is like, what systems do you have in place? The second key is how do you show up? So that belongs wholly to the relationships portion of this course. And really it is a lot of like, how are you dealing with your own shiz? Like, are you taking care of yourself? Are you losing your mind and you don't know why? Are you angry and you don't know why? Are you showing up in one group as a beautiful, lovely angel, and then you wait till your kids are in the car and you lose your shit? Like that, those are the questions. That's like, how are you showing up? And those are pieces that are inner work and relationships, but it really so much is understanding yourself, what things trigger you, what things are, and do they trigger you because, hello, those are normal things and they would trigger everybody, or do they trigger you because you have some past trauma that you need to work through? Do you have something, I know a lot of adults with autism, a lot of adults with ADHD. I've got ADHD. Like you have to have systems in place to really help you deal with your own stuff. And when you've got those in place, it truly helps you have a happier home life. And it helps the people around you like you more. Just hate to say that, but I've been on that other road of having people not like me a whole lot. And then I realized, oh, wait, it's me. It's me. It's not them. It's me. I realized many years ago that like children actually show up exactly the same every day. It's me that shows up differently. So if I don't deal with my own stuff, then I'm the one who's going to make the day go bad. And that's pretty much 100% true, because how I react to things is like, it's really indicative of how everything ends up going. Okay, so the third key that I would say is to a happy home life is sort of examining meltdowns with children and fights with partners. So again, that falls into that relationships category, and really understanding and learning how to parent together. Temperament is at the core of this. So we'll talk a lot about temperament. So I hope you're like, if you have been in the past and been to my stuff and you're like, I just can't think about temperament, so I can't dive into that. This is your time. This is your time to dive in feet first and fully understand temperament. I promise you, if you do the exercises that we'll be doing, you will come away with a better understanding of temperament for yourself, for your partner, for your children, and everybody in your life. We're going to play some games on guessing temperaments. I'm going to assign y'all, like, watch the movies and tell me what temperaments in there. Go out and see people in public that you don't know and see if you can guess their temperament just by watching what they do. So we'll be doing a lot of those sorts of things. And when we get to that temperament section, but at the core of that is like, then you understand why children are melting down and why you can say the same thing to 3 children and they be of 3 separate temperaments and they all take it differently. So, if you've got a choleric child, you can be on them. Like, my youngest is choleric. I could be like, come on. She's like a little motor, like she's a mini me. She's like, she thrives on that. If I act like that to my phlegmatic son, he's like, go slower. Like, and so I had to learn how to talk to him differently than talking to my youngest. And then I've got a couple of melancholics in the mix, and man, they just think that I'm ruining their day if I talk to them the same way I talk to her, my youngest. So you really want to understand how to talk to your children. And I'm a Gen Xer, and I know my parents would have been like, just get over it. And you know what? Maybe we do need to just get over it. But I kind of want to be a better parent than where I came from. And absolutely love my mom, but she didn't have the tools. Thankfully, she only had one of me. She only had one of me to figure it out. And she was melancholic. And so I was raised by a melancholic, did not help me be more sympathetic as a choleric. So we have to know temperament in order to help teach our children temperament. We have to know it in order to help them like round out their rough edges, and how to help them have empathy if they don't have empathy, or more sympathy if they don't have enough sympathy. So all of those pieces, those are our job as parents. And when we really work with them, we are sending out children into the world that are a gift to the world, not a burden. And I think that's super important. And also, if you've got conflict with your partner, like, understanding temperament will help that. Eric and I have been married almost 19 years. Well, nope, Super Sam's 18, almost 20 years. We have had the fights we've had, I can count on one hand and still have fingers left over. And I fought with my ex-husband every day. But then I learned. And I understood. And in that period of time that I was a single mom, I was like, I don't want to do that again. That was awful. That's exhausting. So I spent that time. I actually, not very many people know this, but I have a book treatment somewhere. I never finished the book. I started it because I was like so into temperament, like had dived so deeply into temperament, that I thought it would be so awesome if we could teach this to dads, because if dads could get it, then it would be so much easier for the whole family. And so I started writing a book on teaching temperament via the original Star Wars movies. And that's actually part of how Eric and I met. And so it's kind of a funny thing that that's brought us together, and I never ended up finishing the book, but man, we both understand temperament so much so. And I love it when we're in a situation and he'll say something about temperament, and I'm like, I didn't even recognize that. I didn't even catch that, because he studied it as much as I have. And that really, when we're both looking at like the world from that lens, it makes things so much easier. It really also helps you to not have fights with people. It just doesn't mean that you let them do things that they shouldn't do, but it actually lets you know how to talk to somebody so that you don't end up in an argument. And when you do end up in an argument, you know how to be like, okay, we're done, a lot quicker than if you are just going after them. So that will be a really big piece. And like I said, I find that to be like the third key in having a healthy home life is like really being able to examine those meltdowns with children and fights with partners. I think that's super important. The fourth thing is your relationship with your partner. Again, that falls into the relationship space. And it's more parenting together and really loving each other. Like if you are not like hot for your husband right now, there's something wrong. So we want to fix that. Like sometimes I can't wait for my children to go to bed. Doesn't mean that's happening every night, but dang, I just want to be with him because I enjoy him. In fact, he said to me right before I walked in here, we've kind of had some crazy the last few weeks. They were off doing stuff, he and the kids, and the weekend before we had company here. And he came up to me and he was like, I'm really looking forward to just having a date with just you this week. Yeah, just us. Well, we don't have to talk about everybody else. So if you don't have that relationship with your partner and you are craving it, let's do that for you. Let's get that going for you because that spice is so important. And yes, you go through periods of time when your kids are little and yeah, you might not be between the sheets together too much, but it's a lie, an absolute lie to think that there is not spice even during those times. It doesn't have to be sexual, but it definitely, we all know that that sexual space starts here. So if you're not like having that conversation with each other, you're not excited to be with each other, we need to fix that because guess what? You made babies with this person and probably want to hang out with them for a while. And if you're in a space where you're thinking, actually, I need to be a single parent, like I'm not a proponent of divorce, but I've been down that road and I completely understand what that looks like and how to help through that. Because you've got to be able to nurture yourself and nourish yourself before you can nourish a partner. But that period of time when I was a single parent, those were times that I really worked on like, what do I really want? Like I had been married for 13 years, y'all. Had 3 children with somebody that I wouldn't cross the street to see today. And I didn't like that. I felt like that about somebody that I was married to. So we want you to be in a space where you feel good about who you're with, even if you're just with yourself for right now. So we'll be tackling that as well. And then I would say the fifth thing that I think is super important about having a healthy home life and a great peaceful foundation is sort of understanding your spiritual path. And that can sometimes be really messy. I think that, especially if we didn't have it in place or start having it when our children were born, then a lot of moms are trying to figure it out and they're trying to tend to the spiritual needs of everybody else. And that can be really hard. Excuse me. So we want you to feel like you're in a space where you can work through your spiritual challenges and really love yourself and really understand why you're here and what it is that your mission is, even if that's just your mission for the next few years. When I started my adult life, I was in law school. I am not in law school now. Like, excuse me, I was pre-law, working on a political science degree at the University of Utah. And now I could give two craps about political science. Don't care at all. Don't even care about the legal stuff a whole lot anymore because that was something that I started down that path, but that was not where I was supposed to be. So then I was in midwifery training for a while. I was a lactation consultant and I was in midwifery training, had just started attending births and I got divorced. And then I had this giant question in front of me, like, do I really want my children to spend this much time with the man that I can't stand and that's not healthy? And so I made a choice to walk away from midwifery. That was really hard. But what was interesting is the door that opened from that was I was Waldorf homeschooling. And I was Waldorf homeschooling in a time when there were not very many curriculum options. And people asked me questions all the time. So I would publish, well, this is what we're doing. And then this is what we're doing. And more people asked. And then I started writing books. And then I started working with homeschooling families. So when we are in a space where we're open to what's coming, like Lord knows what's coming. Like if I saw somebody from my college days right now that I hadn't seen since then, they'd be like, oh, you've got to be a great big lawyer working in a big law firm. No, could care less. Could care less. So truly finding that space that is yours is really important when it comes to how you feel about yourself and your spiritual path. And sometimes there is the space of feeling spiritually alone and trying to sort out, like, where do I belong in that spiritual realm. I know a lot of people, like I said, that have left their religion that they were part of, but maybe don't want to leave God. Like, you have the people that leave religion and then they go all crazy, right? And they get drunk and they sleep around and they do all that stuff. Well, those people are on their own path, but that's not the most of the people that I work with. Most of the people that I work with, they've walked away from some faith that they maybe have held for many years, and they know there's something, but they just don't feel comfortable going to the same place that they went every Sunday. And how do they then teach their children and walk a path that is a spiritual parenting path while having these questions? And those are big questions. And they're questions that I welcome, because we should absolutely have those conversations. We should feel good about asking those questions because they're important questions. They're important questions for our path and for where we're going as human beings and where we're taking our children to. They're super important questions. So the last key that I think is crazy important about having a healthy home life is having joy in the journey. So if you're sitting there right now and you are not having fun, you're doing it wrong. We need to fix that, because if you don't know the last time you laughed out loud, or you're not having a good time every day, like I have fun every day. And that isn't just because I have a fun life. It's because I seek it. I seek joy. And when we seek joy and we can continually cultivate joy and cultivate that joy in the journey space, then it gets easier. And then you start to rub off on even the negative people in your life. And they're like, why is she so happy? People say, how many times people have said that to me? Why are you so happy? Like, why should I not be happy? Like, I tried to die twice and I'm still here. So I must have a purpose. And my purpose isn't to be sad all the time. My purpose is to be happy and to bring as much happiness as I possibly can to other people. And that is like really the path that I love being on. So I never feel like I'm actually working because I love what I do. And I feel like this joy it's got to be infectious and contagious. You've got to find a space where you can be in joy, even if there's shit going on around you. And trust me, there's always shit going on around me, always. And I'm always finding a way to have joy. So even if you've got trauma in your life, I want you to be able to find joy. So those would be the 6 keys, and we are going to dive deeply into those over the next few months. Hopefully you'll stay with us and you'll come each time. So again, we're going to be doing temperament, shadow work, trauma work, like radical responsibility work, which sometimes is really painful, spiritual trauma work, and finding joy, because those things are all really important. Your prayer focus or meditation focus, if me saying prayer stresses you out, then just say meditation, is for you to really think about, have you struggled with programs in the past, like keeping up with them, and why do you think you struggled? So we've got some places in your workbook for you to fill that out and really take the time. And it doesn't take a ton of time, but take 15-20 minutes, maybe when we're done with this call, and just ask yourself, all right, what are my goals here? What do I want to do? And how do I see myself at the end? And how can I ask for the support that I need? So many people say to me, well, I didn't feel like I had enough support. So come here twice a month and get all the support you need. Feel free to message me, like I said, on Instagram. I'm happy to answer questions. That's what I do. And I hope that you will again come back and enjoy this journey with me. So that is the end of the content for tonight. I'm going to stop recording. I'm opening the floor to Q&A. If you've got questions, I'd love to hear them. And if you don't have questions tonight, that's totally fine. I'm putting you on the spot. You didn't know you were going to come and ask questions. So either one is totally fine. If you've got questions, you're welcome to raise your digital hand or put a question in the chat. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this recording off. But I did want to say really quick, this recording, just this very first one, because we're really trying to get the word out, is going to end up being our free podcast for the next week. So we will get it up and there will be recording. So if you've got other friends that you think need this content, send it to them along with the link on how to sign up for the other pieces so that they can come as well.